The story of Esther is one of courage, divine providence, and the triumph of justice over evil. Set during the reign of King Ahasuerus in ancient Persia, it follows the journey of a young Jewish woman who rises from obscurity to become queen and ultimately saves her people from destruction. The story begins with a lavish banquet held by King Ahasuerus in the capital city of Susa. This extravagant feast lasted 180 days, showcasing the wealth and power of the Persian Empire. At the end of the festivities, the king held a final 7-day banquet for all the people in the citadel. During this celebration, he commanded his wife, Queen Vashti, to appear before him and his guests to display her beauty. However, Vashti refused. Her defiance enraged the king, and after consulting his advisors, he decided to remove her from her position to prevent other women in the empire from following her example and disobeying their husbands. This decision set the stage for Esther's rise to queenship. A nationwide search was conducted to find a new queen, and many young women, including Esther, were brought to the king's harem. Esther was an orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai, who was a devout Jew living in Susa. Upon arriving at the palace, she quickly won favor with Haggai, the official in charge of the women. She was given special treatment, including beauty treatments and the best accommodations. When her turn came to meet the king, she found favor in his eyes, and he chose her as his new queen. However, at Mordecai's instruction, she kept her Jewish identity a secret. Meanwhile, Mordecai uncovered a plot against the king by 2 of his guards, Bigthan and Teresh. He informed Esther, who relayed the information to the king, leading to the conspirators' execution. This act of loyalty was recorded in the royal chronicles, but was initially forgotten. Haman, a high-ranking official and a favorite of the king, soon emerged as the primary antagonist. He was given great authority and expected all royal officials to bow before him. However, Mordecai refused, likely because he did not want to give divine honor to a man. Enraged, Haman not only sought to punish Mordecai, but also plotted to exterminate all Jews in the empire. He deceived the king into issuing a decree that ordered their destruction, claiming that the Jews were disobedient to royal laws and a threat to the kingdom. The decree was sealed with the king's signet ring, making it irrevocable, and the date of destruction was set. Upon hearing this, Mordecai and the Jewish community mourned, fasting and wearing sackcloth. Mordecai urged Esther to intervene, reminding her that she too would not escape the decree simply because she was in the palace. He famously stated, "Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Encouraged by these words, Esther agreed to act but requested that all Jews fast for 3 days before she approached the king, as entering his presence uninvited could result in death unless he extended his golden scepter. After the fast, Esther bravely approached the king. When he saw her, he extended his scepter, sparing her life. Instead of immediately pleading for her people, she invited the king and Haman to a banquet. At the banquet, she still did not reveal her request, but invited them to a second banquet the following day. That night, in an ironic twist of fate, the king suffered from insomnia and had the royal records read to him. He was reminded of Mordecai's earlier act of loyalty in exposing the assassination plot. When he asked how Mordecai had been honored, he learned that no reward had been given. Meanwhile, Haman, still filled with hatred, planned to execute Mordecai and had gallows built for the purpose. The next morning he went to ask the king for permission to hang Mordecai, but before he could, the king asked him how he should honor a man whom the king delighted in. Assuming the king was referring to him, Haman suggested dressing the man in royal robes, placing him on the king's horse, and parading him through the city. To his horror, the king commanded him to do exactly that for Mordecai. At the second banquet, Esther finally revealed her true identity and the plight of her people. She told the king that someone had plotted to destroy her people, and when asked who was responsible, she declared, "The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman." The king, furious, left the room in anger. Haman, realizing his fate, pleaded with Esther for mercy, but in his desperation he fell onto the couch where she was reclining. At that moment, the king returned and saw him in what appeared to be an assaulting position, which further sealed his doom. One of the king's servants informed him that Haman had built gallows to hang Mordecai. In another ironic twist, the king ordered Haman to be hanged on the very gallows he had constructed. Even though Haman was dead, the decree against the Jews could not be revoked. However, at Esther and Mordecai's request, the king issued a new decree allowing the Jews to defend themselves against their enemies. When the appointed day arrived, the Jews successfully overcame their oppressors. Mordecai was then elevated to a position of great influence, second only to the king, and the Jewish people established the festival of Purim to commemorate their deliverance. The story of Esther is a testament to divine providence and the courage required to stand against injustice. Esther's bravery and willingness to risk her life for her people remain an enduring example of selflessness, wisdom, and faith.